evening on, and twilight gray had in her sober livery all things clad. Silence accompanied for the beast and bird. They to their grassy couch, these to their nests were slunk. But the wakeful nightingale, she all night long, her amorous descant song. Silence is pleased.
Good morning, everyone. On behalf of the congregation, I welcome you to the Unitarian Universalist Church of the Shenandoah Valley. I'm Liz England. I'm a board member, and I'm this morning's worship associate. Thank you for coming. We wish to acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Shawnee and the Manahoac tribes who lived in this area forever prior to the arrival of European settlers who then took away the land for their own. We gather together today with our doubts as well as our convictions and our fears and our hopes, with our failures and our aspirations, with our sorrows and our joys together. Whether you're joining us here today for the first time, or if you've been a friend or a member for a long time, we are so glad to see you this morning. Whatever faith you bring to us, whatever faiths you've had in the past, if any at all, whatever your background, your whoever you are, whomever you love, however you got here, you are welcomed. Thank you for coming. Our opening words today come from Robert Frost, from his poem, Acquainted with the Night. I have been one acquainted with the night. I have walked out in the rain and back in rain. I have outwalked the farthest city light. I have looked down the saddest city lane. I have passed by the watchman on his beat and dropped my eyes, unwilling to explain. I have stood still and stopped the sound of feet when far away an interrupted cry came over houses from another street. But not to call me back or say goodbye, and further still at an earthly height, one luminary clock against the sky proclaimed the time was neither wrong nor right. I have been one acquainted with the night. And now, as Dottie Cox comes forward to light the chalice, let us all say together, here and from our homes on Zoom, the words for lighting our chalice this morning. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And now I invite you to join with us in our covenant statement. Love is the spirit of this church. The quest for truth is a sacrament. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help our neighbor. To these ends, we covenant one with another.
Choosing words and music for today was hard. So many things could have worked beautifully. I knew I wanted to include music by a composer who is very special to me, Franz Schubert. He died on this day in 1828 at the age of 31. For the opening song, I chose his majestic setting of Goethe's poem Wanderers Nachtlied, or The Wanderer's Night Song. Aren't we all wanderers in this life? And I'll give you a brief translation before I sing. Over all the peaks, it is peaceful. In all the treetops, you feel hardly a breath of wind. The little birds are silent in the forest. Only wait. Soon you will rest as well.
Beautiful. Today we welcome Dr. Byron Jones and Dr. Karen Walker, longtime friends and musical partners. Byron is currently professor of voice at the Shenandoah University Conservatory of Music, and Karen was, until her recent retirement, professor of piano. They are so pleased to bring their musical gifts, incredible gifts, and the spirit of their own friendship to our worship service today. Welcome, Karen and Byron. And now it's time for all ages. The time in our service when we have a volunteer who presents a little story for the smaller people and the bigger people too. Karen Reif has a story for all ages.
Do you ever have one of those days where you feel like all you hear is no? You may imagine many fun and exciting activities for your day, But no, you have responsibilities. Can we sleep in? No. We have to go to work and school. Can we go to McDonald's? No. We have food to cook at home. Can we do something fun? No. Too much to do. And although responsibilities are important, what if we had a whole day of yes? What would you ask to do? Imagine the possibilities. This book is about a yes day. Would any children like to come up to see the picture? I will describe them to you. Yes! Today is my favorite day of the year, Yes Day. Just watch, you'll see what I mean. Can I please have pizza for breakfast? Mom serves him a giant pizza. Can I use your hair gel? Say cheese, it's picture day and his hair is spiked up. Can I clean my room tomorrow? Later, mess. They're at the grocery store. Can I pick? He loads up his cart with all the sugary, delicious, marshmallowy cereals he can find. Can we get ice cream? They get a nice chocolate chip mint cone. Can I eat lunch outside? He eats lunch outside, at a picnic table. Can we have a food fight? Mom and Dad and his sister go outside and they're throwing bananas and tomatoes and they're having the best time. Everybody's smiling. Can we invent our own game? Dad throws the ping pong balls down the stairs and he tries to swap them all with his paddles. Can I have a piggyback ride? They go for a long walk and Dad gives him a piggyback ride. Can Mario come over for dinner? He and Mario eat a big plate of spaghetti and meatballs. Can we stay up really late? He and Dad stay up late watching movies and eating popcorn. Does this day have to end? Dad says, yes. And he says, see you again next year. What would you do with your yes day? And now we'll sing the children out.
Go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Thank you, Karen.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I so appreciated the invitation, and Karen and I love any excuse to collaborate on a project, so thank you. Besides music, which is my profession, one of my great passions is language. I love word games and puzzles, great writing in any genre, and most especially poetry. I'm excited to share some of that with you during today's message. My favorite color is a shade of blue I call 8:45 p.m. late July. There is a depth, a warmth even, to this cool hue. The bright, hot, often harsh summer day has faded, its heat dissipated. The earth seems to exhale at the close of another day, another set of expectations both met and unmet. Such is the cyclical nature of our existence. This luminescent blue also portends night, the disappearance of the sun and the unveiling of moon and stars. Nowadays, this shade appears much earlier. What then does night mean for us? Here's how some of my favorite poets have expressed it. In A Clear Midnight, Walt Whitman talks about freedom. This is thy hour, O soul, thy free flight into the wordless. Away from books, away from art, the day erased, the lesson done. The fully forth emerging, silent, gazing, pondering the themes thou lovest best, night, sleep, death, and the stars. Or Langston Hughes in Harlem Night Song. Come, let us roam the night together singing, I love you. Across the Harlem rooftops, moon is shining, night sky is blue. There are great drops of golden dew. In the cabaret, the jazz band's playing, I love you. Come, let us roam the night together singing. Or, as Louise C. Wallace puts it, there is rest and reflection. Night comes, a Madonna clad in scented blue, rose red her mouth and deep her eyes. She lights her stars and turns to where, beneath her silver lamp, the moon, upon a couch of shadow lies a dreamy child, the wearied day. Or the emptiness and desolation expressed by T.S. Eliot in Preludes. The winter evening settles down with smell of steaks in passageways, 6 o'clock. The burnt out ends of smoky days, and now a gusty shower wraps the grimy scraps of withered leaves about your feet and newspapers from vacant lots. The showers beat on broken blinds and chimney pots, and at the corner of the street, a lonely cab horse steams and stamps, and then the lighting of the lamps. Sometimes we might at first feel lost, points out Emily Dickinson. We grow accustomed to the dark when light is put away, and when the neighbor holds the lamp to witness her goodbye, a moment, we uncertain step for newness of the night, then fit our vision to the dark and meet the road erect. And so of larger darknesses, those evenings of the brain, when not a moon disclose a sign or star come out within, the bravest grope a little and sometimes hit a tree directly in the forehead. But as they learn to see, either the darkness alters or something in the sight adjusts itself to midnight and life steps almost straight. Dickinson. Or what about this line from Samuel Taylor Coleridge? He talks about the secret ministry of frost. I just love that line. But what else might we fear, though? Or what else might we feel with approaching night? It could be fear, anonymity, desire, anxiety. These days, it can be hard to distinguish day from night. I mean, it's dark when I leave my studio to drive the few minutes it takes to get home. But there's something about the shift of location, the change of rhythm, shedding the sounds of my day that restores and revives me. You see, my entire professional life is based on sound. I analyze singing all day, my own if I'm practicing, and certainly that of my students. I'm also a morning person. I front load. My partner and I get up early to go to the gym. In fact, I almost see the most splendid night sky when I first wake up. I'm at school by 9 o'clock and go full throttle until the teaching day is over. So not only am I ready for the day to end, I am also spent. This introvert's batteries are low. Nothing that sipping on a glass of wine while preparing dinner with my partner won't fix. See, I'm recharging already. Now, our technology has taught us the solution to most problems. Did you try unplugging it and plugging it back in? Hard shutdown and restart? Or is there a new operating system update for all us Mac folks here? My point of view is, of course, influenced by the fact that I work during the day and not at night, unless I am at a student recital, or the opera, or the choir concert, or the orchestra concert, analyzing sound. But that's not every night, thankfully. My system reboot, as it were, is what I call pushing the reset button. I try very hard to leave each day behind. That means not carrying forward my failures, but it also means leaving behind my successes. The next day is, well, the next day. A new chance to try to do something right, something helpful, something good. Plus, I love the night sky. I don't know how many times I have dragged Ryan, my other half, outside to explain, look at the moon. By the way, last night, I hope you did. I love the night. I was almost a winter solstice baby. I was born December 20th. We live around lots of light pollution, but I still love to look up and see what I can see. Recently, Wimberley Valley, Texas, about halfway between Austin and San Antonio, was named Dark Sky Place of the Year by Dark Sky International in recognition of its efforts to curb light pollution. Such is the value we place on an unfettered view of the night sky with its expansiveness, beauty, power. I can remember camping trips as a kid. I grew up in the western North Carolina mountains right off the Blue Ridge Parkway. Nothing like looking up at a night sky from a dark campsite once the fire has crackled its last. Or in the Adirondacks, where I spend about 6 weeks each summer analyzing sound, teaching voice at Siegel Music Festival. The night sky up there defies description. I am often reminded of the text of a favorite aria from the opera Susanna by Carlisle Floyd, fellow South Carolinian, based on the story of Susanna and the elders from the book of Daniel. At this moment in the opera, Susanna walks outside in her tiny Tennessee town and looks up. And please forgive me if my southern accent becomes a little more pronounced. Ain't it a pretty night? The sky's so dark and velvet-like, and it's all lit up with stars. It's like a great big mirror reflecting fireflies over a pond. Look at all them stars. The longer you look, the more you see. The sky is so heavy with stars that it might fall right down out of heaven and cover us all up in one big blanket of velvet, all stitched with diamonds. Ain't it a pretty night? The sky is so heavy with stars tonight they could fall right down out of heaven and cover us up in one big blanket of velvet and diamonds. And there is something about the night that to me feels like a protective embrace. But morning does come. The sun rises. We have to take off the cloak of night and greet the brightness and clarity of the day with all its challenges. How successful I am depends on how well I manage to locate and press the reset button. Are the batteries recharged? Do I feel equipped to handle what will come my way? Am I running the latest and best version of my personal operating system? At last year's commencement exercises, the parents of a graduate student with whom I had worked very closely said, "Thank you for pouring into our daughter." That really struck me. I pour into others until I am, in fact, empty. During the pandemic, I learned about something called compassion fatigue. Originally studied as it related to first responders and medical professionals, I have also come to see that those of us in other caring professions like teaching are also susceptible. We empathize, we see need, we problem solve, we work tirelessly to bolster others. The more we do this, though, the more we have to unplug. It sounds so easy, so pat, and yet it really is hard for most of us to do. Medical researchers tell us of the importance of sleep to brain function and memory consolidation. Cerebrospinal fluid may also flush out toxic waste during sleep. Just imagine dragging all those unneeded items to the little trash can icon on your mental desktop. I would love to do that. So why are we so quick to compromise this seemingly crucial part of our daily rhythm? There always seems to be one more thing to organize, one more email to send or answer, one more. And we feel guilty if we don't do all the things. We feel as though we've failed somehow, that we didn't measure up, that we were inadequate. In Anam Cara, a book of Celtic wisdom, John O'Donohue talks about the inner wellspring. And thank you, Suzanne Leroux, for introducing me to his writing. I hope you're listening on Zoom. He writes, "You can never love another person unless you are equally involved in the beautiful but difficult spiritual work of learning to love yourself." You can never love another person unless you are equally involved in the beautiful but difficult spiritual work of learning to love yourself. When interacting with the world around us, we can build barriers to protect ourselves, Our energy is spent on surviving the external instead of nurturing the internal. Our inner wellspring of joy, of love, of goodwill. I may be taking O'Donoghue's writing slightly out of context, but I think this approach to healthy, loving relationships is at the heart of how we place ourselves in relationship with our surroundings, with those who might need us to pour into them. And maybe this whole night being night thing is just way too literal. Yeah, maybe I missed the boat here. But when I go outside at night, I'm drawn to the moon or Venus in our current night sky. That source of light in the darkness. It transfixes me as if to reassure me that the darkness is not absolute, that it is, in fact, balanced by light. In classical singing, we have the concept of chiaroscuro, the balance between dark and light, forward resonance and pharyngeal space. A balanced tone is a healthy tone. So what about balance? We sense when our lives are out of balance. We know when the washing machine is out of balance because it makes quite a racket. Maybe we should send out the same signal. I might try that at school next week and see what happens. But what happens when we lose that healthy, manageable balance? When we are in the dark and can't find the beautiful, clear, restoring source of light? Can we become the light for each other? Can we radiate, show the way, or simply reassure? The original title for this message was Pressing the Reset Button, which is printed in your bulletin. I've sort of, my mind has evolved. So it sort of went more to the theme of night. But anyway, that's kind of still what it's about. Anyway, it comes from a question posed by a colleague once. They said, "How are you always this positive?" I press the reset button, I answer, and coffee. I said, "It's my own little way of approaching each day with a fresh perspective, even if the challenges might look the same or the problems remain unsolved." So yes, I seek out ways to reset, and I could not function otherwise. I know how grateful I am when someone else shows me the light and helps me reset when I'm struggling to do so. And maybe that's what makes this whole thing work, this cycle of night and day, of darkness of light, of chiaroscuro, of balance. Maybe we help each other reset, or we help each other find what the reset looks like. The world we live in often seems broken. In our efforts to make sure we are protected from the outside world, we neglect the health of the inside world, our inner wellspring, the source of light in the darkness. Maybe that's why I push the reset button, so that I can make sure I'm equipped to help others, so that my batteries are recharged and I am working with my best self, with my full and most focused energies. Back to my imagery of night. Just knowing that the restorative force of night awaits me is somehow easier. Makes it somehow easier to share the light that I have. As we move closer to December 21st and the winter solstice and my birthday, let's think about what it means to have an even greater opportunity to restore our inner sources of light in order that we might shine. We can't know the depth of someone's need for a star in their night sky. In James Weldon Johnson's novel from 1912, The Autobiography of an Ex-Colored Man, he recounts what could happen in rural black churches in Georgia at that time. Sometimes it devolves upon the leader to sing down a long-winded or uninteresting speaker. Well, since I am both speaker and singer today, y'all are pretty much stuck. I hope I haven't been too long-winded. I also hope that we can all move forward during this very busy, emotionally and spiritually demanding season, thinking about the inner wellspring and how we can make sure that it flows freely. And that means taking care of ourselves, our own selves, so that we might have a light to offer in the darkness others may be experiencing. A little reset button, if you will. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. I'm resetting just a second. The purpose of this church is to encourage all who gather together to grow more generous in spirit and in action too. We will now gratefully receive an offering to sustain the ministry of this self-supporting church and its ministries within and beyond our walls. If you happen to be watching online, please consider making an offering after today's service through our webpage, Shenandoah.org. Byron?
Today, our offertory music will be Night Song by H. Leslie Adams. The poem is by Clarissa Scott Delaney. She only lived 26 or 27 years, though she would die of kidney disease at age 26. I could read my notes. Clarissa May Scott accomplished much in her short life. Born in 1901 in Tuskegee, Alabama, her father worked as a secretary for Booker T. Washington. She was educated in New England at Bradford Academy and Wellesley, where she played field hockey and lettered, the first African-American to do so at the school. She was also a member of Delta Sigma Theta sorority. Her true love, however, was poetry. After graduating Phi Beta Kappa from Wellesley in 1923, she traveled to Europe, visiting France and Germany for extended periods of time. Upon her return to the US, she moved to Washington, where she frequented the literary salons of Georgia Douglas Johnson and the Saturday Nighters Club. And that house is on the corner of 15th, it's on 15th Street Northwest in Washington. It's where the Langston Hughes and the literati would meet on Saturday night and have salons. So she was a part of the Saturday Nighters Club. She married attorney Hubert Thomas Delaney. They moved to New York, where she worked as a social worker. She died the following year and only published 4 poems. The night was made for rest and sleep, for winds that softly sigh. It was not made for grief and tears, so then why do I cry? The wind that blows through leafy trees is soft and warm and sweet. For me the night is a gracious cloak to hide my soul's defeat. Just one dark hour of shaken depths, of bitter black despair. Another day will find me brave and not afraid to share, and not afraid to share. For our closing words, I'd like to take us to, we return to the poetry of Robert Frost. This is Choose Something Like a Star. O star, the fairest one in sight, we grant your loftiness the right to some obscurity of cloud. It will not do to say of night, since dark is what brings out your light. Some mystery becomes the proud, but to be wholly taciturn in your reserve is not allowed. Say something to us we can learn by heart, and when alone repeat. Say something, and it says, I burn, but say with what degree of heat. Talk Fahrenheit, talk centigrade. Use language we can comprehend. Tell us what elements you blend. It gives us strangely little aid, but does tell something in the end. And steadfast as Keats' eremite, not even stooping from its sphere, it asks a little of us here. It asks of us a certain height. So when at times the mob is swayed to carry praise or blame too far, we may choose something like a star to stay our minds on and be stayed.
Thank you, Byron. Beautiful. And now, as Dottie comes forward to extinguish the flame, the chalice, let us all say together, here and from our homes, the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, not the light of truth, the warmth of our community, the fire of commitment. We carry in our hearts until we meet again.
For the postlude, we encounter once more Goethe's poem, beautifully set for voice and piano by American composer Charles Ives. The poem was translated by his beloved wife, Harmony Twitchell Ives. Charles said, "One thing I am certain of is that if I've done anything good in music, it was first because of my father and second because of my wife." Both Charles and Harmony had a keen interest in social justice. She was a nurse, and they opened their home under the auspices of the Fresh Air Fund, a nonprofit organization founded in 1877 with the goal of providing country vacations to some of New York's neediest children, initially from the immigrant communities of Manhattan's Lower East Side. Harmony also worked with the Visiting Nurses Association in Chicago. Both organizations continue to thrive. All the treetops is rest, is rest. A gentle breeze scarcely stirs their waving crest, their waving crest. All the birds are silent, each in his quiet